What happens when two seasoned business leaders get together? They talk shop, of course. Sit back and listen in as Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso share from their experience around current issues facing executives, entrepreneurs, and their leadership teams. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, Vince Moiso here with the CEO Podcast. I'm here as always with Scott DeLong.
Hi.
And hey, it's we're recording on a Sunday, football Sunday, NFL Sunday. So I'm wearing my Dallas Cowboys hat. If you guys didn't know, I was a Dallas Cowboys fan. They got another big win today against Washington.
You say another like it's been a usual thing for them.
Oh, it has been a very usual thing for them lately.
All right.
All behind Cooper Rush.
Yeah.
Come on, Scott. Get with the program. But hey, listen, it just puts me in a good place, right? So I'm just getting a clearing out. It puts me in a good headspace. So I'm not, reeling over a Dallas Cowboy loss as we get into our conversation, which is a good one. And we had a listener who was also a former guest
right?
that reached out with a topic that I thought, was really
Actually with a question, not a topic, but a question.
Really a question, yeah. So she's got a friend who's an executive and has been an executive for his entire career.
Yep.
So in other words, working for somebody else, but is at that point where he is considering starting his own business, but he's afraid, right? And doesn't know what to do or where to start. So the question is, what advice do you give to somebody that is kind of on the verge, on the fence, right? I've worked, had a nice career, and I'm thinking about going out on my own, and what do I do to help me with that decision?
So this one's
process?
easy for me. The first place to start is at home. I didn't always think like that. When I started my first business, I didn't. I just went out and just did it, and come to find out that starting at home is the place to do that. This isn't, in my opinion, from my experience, this is not a decision you want to make by yourself.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. The entrepreneurial life sounds really cool to the outside world.
Yeah.
You're in control of your own time. You get to make your own money. You get come and go whenever you want. More time at home with the kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. A startup, especially a bootstrap startup. Well, not any startup. If you're funded by someone, they're going to have expectations of you as well.
You kind of wake up every day broke, don't you? Like as if I'm starting new almost every day. I feel like
for a lot longer than you anticipate. Starting up, waking up every morning broke.
Yeah.
It is great. It's a great lifestyle if you can handle it.
Well,
if you can handle it with your partner.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you, Scott, is having that support system in place.
Absolutely.
And so, okay, maybe you don't have a family, or you're not obligated in any way. Nonetheless, you need to have a support system. I think reaching to friends, your community, those that you might have a mentor, might be a family member, whatever that is, but I think leveraging that support system in any way that you can, and certainly leveraging your network in any way that you can to help you through the decision-making process. I'll just tell you from my own experience, I don't think you can talk to enough people. It's always good to bounce the idea off of several different people from multiple industries, multiple positions, careers, whatever that might be. So whether they're a career person or entrepreneur, you're gonna just get some experience share. You're gonna get some feedback for various reasons, and then so I would add this is start with a blank whiteboard or a blank piece of paper, and you start to write down the advantages and disadvantages, the pros and cons, whatever you want to call that. Really just troubleshoot through all the benefits that being on your own or starting your own business is going to bring to you, and then all the benefits that the current position that you hold already brings to you. Then you write down all the bad things, right?
All the bad things you can think of.
What are the challenges?
There are more than you're going to think of.
No question. Write all the challenges down, all the challenges that you can come up with, and then all the things you hate.
Yeah.
about being in the career that you're in that's driving you toward entrepreneurship?
So there's some other things to consider. I don't think everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur, right? There is a pit of the stomach kind of thing that happens when you are dealing with a startup or dealing with payroll for the first time, trying to make every other Friday making that payroll happen. And not everybody is cut out for that.
Well, so wait till that payroll gets big, right?
And then you need to check with yourself to see, can you handle that kind of internal stress? There are a lot more sleepless nights than you would think. Now, I'm all for entrepreneurship. This is my 4th company, and I love it. It's fun for me. But my constitution allows me to do that.
It's not for everybody.
I talk to a lot of people that think it's romantic, but I tell you what, that white picket fence of having a paycheck every other week is a pretty cool thing as well. So, yes, somebody else might be in control of your time or your thought process or how you get things done, and you might not get to make all the decisions, but there is some security in that paycheck that a lot of people need. And I'm just saying, from my experiences, your spouse is part of that decision. Assuming you're married, right? You've got family and whatever.
Sure.
Because they're used to that paycheck as well.
Well, so it begs the question, right? I think the straight up answer to the question that we started with is it depends.
I mean, every question we start with, it depends.
So, it depends on a lot of things because it depends on what you're jumping into. I mean, Scott, you and I were talking about it earlier, and I gave the example of, okay, you work for a manufacturer or a large distribution company, and all of a sudden you're saying, hey, I want to go out on my own and do the same thing. Well, that might require a lot of capital to do that. So I think what I'm getting...
But I can outsource that. Well, now you got to fly to Taiwan and go... Anyway.
There's a cost to everything. And so what I'm getting at, and you started to allude to it, is capital. So I think when you start to talk about a paycheck that you might be used to, understand, do you have the capital or access to the capital to get you to the point where you can actually start up the business? I think that's a really big question. And oh, by the way, that begs another question, is how much time have you spent to even forecast the amount of capital it's going to take you to get into your business?
So there used to be an old rule of thumb, and it was this. If you want to start your own business, make sure you can support yourself for a year. And I'm saying that's not enough.
It's not.
Right? Because
it's 18 to 24 months.
Supporting yourself is one thing, but then the capital required to do whatever manufacturing or marketing or all the different things that you're going to need to do, even buying a computer with QuickBooks on it, right?
That's right.
Because that's how we're going to start, is start small. There is a cost to all of those things. So the old adage of making sure you can support yourself for a year is only part of it. It's probably a third of the money that you need to have access. Doesn't mean you have to have it in your pocket, but have access to.
Well, I have a genius idea. Would you mind if I share it?
Let's talk.
Why not hire a coach? So, in all seriousness, is like, there was a point in my entrepreneurial career that I wish I would have even known that I had access to somebody that I could have sat down with and paid, a few $1,000s to run through a strategic plan session to help me talk through all of this stuff. So in all seriousness, I think the number one place that you could start, after, of course, tapping into your support group and, making sure everything's good at home to make that type of move, and you've got the support that you need, hire a coach. It's a small investment. I mean, you're going to spend a couple $1,000s potentially, $5,000 maximum, is that, you get a month's worth or a strategic plan session or whatever it might be to basically troubleshoot through the entire idea.
So here's the argument, right, that people will have. Well, I've been an executive for 20 years at XYZ company. I've done strategic plans all my life. Been doing this. Sure, that's great. But having an outside third party, I'm going to say disinterested, but not disinterested, but not as emotionally attached as you are.
You said the magic word.
The thing.
That's it.
Right? So that you can keep logic in here instead of just the emotion portion of it. So I agree. Have a coach. Nothing wrong with that.
You said it. If you're already thinking about it and talking about it, you're emotionally attached to it.
That's it.
And that's the difference. So you may think you have the experience of going through strategic planning. You may think you have the experience of any, a whole lot of other things that are going to allow you to be successful in whatever it is you're thinking about. Reality is you're already emotionally attached to it. You cannot be objective around it.
What if I get with this coach and they decided it's not a really good idea for me to move forward?
Then that's just one opinion.
Congratulations. Good for you, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right? Why not spend $2,500 to figure that out instead of $125,000 struggling, failing?
No doubt. And if you don't think, look, you can go through the process with a coach, and if you don't like what you heard, then find someone else. Get a second opinion. Yeah. It's like going to a doctor, right? You go to a doctor to figure out what's wrong with you, and do you take that on faith, or do you say, you know what, I'm not sure what I heard was accurate. I'm going to go get a second opinion. So, go get a second opinion.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, so let's talk about the other option that's out there, if you're thinking about that, and that's the side hustle, right?
Yeah.
So I'm working, I'm keeping my paycheck, but I've got time. I can do it at night. I can get my side hustle. What are your first thoughts on the side hustle concept?
Well, I like it. I like the side hustle concept. Mm-hmm. We encourage it in our business. I think I've told you before. We actually have an employee that has a side business, and he still remains really incredibly important to our business. And I think, it was an easy thing to work out with him. And I think when you've got a talented person, I think the transparency around it is a big deal. So I would encourage anybody that's considering a side hustle is to be transparent with the business that they're working with, and let them know that that's what they're thinking about doing, and would they support something like that, and could you work out a deal where, whether that's part-time or something else, or some sort of agreement, just to make sure that the company that you're with and committed to and that's paying you understands that you're going to spend the bulk of your time or what is agreed upon for you to get your job done. Because I think any business would be super disappointed if all of a sudden they're paying you to be full-time and they're not getting you for full-time.
That's right.
So I think if you deliver on your promise, I'm all for it. I think the side hustle can work.
So I've heard of these folks, and counseled with a few, and I discourage it in one category, and that is if your side hustle is a direct competitor to your current gig, you got some ethical considerations there.
Sure.
And I just don't think, first of all, you most likely aren't going to be transparent with your company saying, hey, I'm going to do this on the side, but I'm competing with you, right? So that kills your transparency thought process there. And I just think that while it might be easier to get into a business that you already know, the amount of stress that you're going to be dealing with, knowing that you're double dipping, and I don't know, it's just, it's not a good thing to do. So if you want to get into this side hustle, find something that's not competing with the people that are paying you.
Well, again, it's just, I think it's around transparency. So I think when you say what you're saying, it's
I've seen people try, and when they come to me, I call them on it. I just don't think it's right.
Yeah, no, I think yeah. It's an interesting topic because I think the situation that we're in right now, it's a scenario. I don't want to get into the details of it, but yeah, it is within the industry. I wouldn't call it a direct competition or anything like that, but we know about it. We're aware of it. We know, everything's on the up and up, and so I don't know. It works. It's worked.
Well, if they're not competing, it's an easier way to get new customers. Certainly, industry people that already know and like and trust you. However, I'm talking about, I've seen people that are taking a competitive product and competing with people that are paying them.
Yeah.
And can you do it? Yeah, you can do it. Just don't. It's not the right thing to do. So.
Yeah, I think if your intent is that, it would make sense to me, Scott, that you would just move on, right?
I would hope.
Yeah, you just move on and start your business, and then you're in kind of the quiet quitting situation, right? I feel like which we just talked about, where it's like, okay, I'm just gonna ride this thing out for a little bit, and then I'll move on to.
There are enough sleepless nights starting your own business without having to have that stress.
Absolutely.
Of being Benedict Arnold or whatever. However you want to look at that
scenario.
So what I'm getting at is first make sure you have support, whether it's at home or whatever your network. The second thing is to get some outside assistance, a third party that is not emotionally attached as you are, to help guide you through a process before, and all these things are happening before you make the decision to give it a try, right?
Yeah.
Then we got to think about the finance portion. Can I support myself for a year? It's going to be 18 months to 2 years, and afford the things that I need to buy for the business at the same time as well. Do I have that access to the capital? And if all those things turn out positive, right, then you've got to say whether emotionally you can handle those sleepless nights, that gut-wrenching things that all entrepreneurs deal with. Even folks like Steve Jobs and Wozniak, right? So everything sounds from rags to riches stories. Yeah, there's a lot in between the rags to riches.
There's no rags to riches. It took them, the better part of almost 30 years before Apple was what it was. And those guys were going door to door. They're working out of a garage. I mean, every story is jam-packed with that. So don't think, even Starbucks, people forget that Starbucks was, I think it was founded in 1970, 72, something like that. I don't know. You have to fact check me on that. But it's a long time ago. We're talking about Starbucks goes back 50 plus years. And, now we see them on every corner. And it's a crack up when I hear people talk about Starbucks being an overnight success.
So we've got an upcoming guest that's going to be sometime around the first of the year that's coming that did a bootstrapped startup in the software business, and I'm looking forward to hearing his story. They got a couple thousand employees now, and no debt, no investors, no debt.
Unbelievable,
incredible. I don't know how that happened, so I'm looking forward to hearing that story. But the point is, when you get to that spot where you find yourself some modem of success, and most of the people that I've counseled and worked with, it's about a 9-year journey before you start feeling like you've made it. Almost everyone hits that same kind of peak at about 9 years, and can you ride that out? And if you get there, it's great. I love it.
Yeah.
Right? It's a great way of life.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I can come and go as I want, kinda now, but not in those first 9 years.
Yeah.
No.
No, I think okay. So switching gears just a second is there are other ways. Like if you're absolutely intent, I'll step back 1 second and just say I agree with Scott in terms of finding a mentor, specifically a coach. Pay a coach, that money, because that small investment can save you a lot of money down the road. Yep. And a good coach would just tell it to you straight, very objectively, and not think of it from an emotional perspective, and just break down numbers and data and just the facts to say it's good or it's not. And I think that's what you need from any of the opinions that you get. That said, if you're intent on figuring it out yourself, there are a lot of resources for you. And I think one of the first places you could start can be reading books.
Sure.
So there's a handful of books. I mean, the one recommendation I would give as top on my list, it's within my top 10, is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I think it's a great book if you're thinking about it, because that's where Tim Ferriss was at. I think if you're thinking about it, that's a good place to start, because there's a lot of nuggets in there around resources and things that you can do. Put yourself together, vet it out, all of those things that will give you some ideas as to whether or not it makes sense for you to make.
And I don't know Ferris's timeline, but I'm going to guess that he didn't get to that 4-hour work week until about the 9-year.
Yeah, no,
right?
No, even longer than that.
Yeah,
there's a lot
of effort.
He was.
So don't get misled by the title.
No. I mean, he started doing. I mean, he's pretty much an entrepreneur and has been for. I think most of his life, but even that said, like even as an entrepreneur, if you're owning a business, you can just get to a point of just total exhaustion within your business. So whether you're an executive trying to jump out on your own and that's what you want, or you're an entrepreneur just trying to figure out how to do it different. I think that book can give a lot of insight into both of those
So
things.
there's another book that I'll recommend as well. It happened to be the textbook that we used for the beginning entrepreneurship class that I taught at the university, and it's the Startup Owner's Manual. And there's a process in there that's called the Business Model Canvas, and it has 9 quadrants of considerations that you could use this as your guide as well, right?
Yeah,
and that's what we did in the class. Is we had these 9 quadrants, and you filled out key customers, target market, the resources that you need from vendors and those sorts of things. But there's 9 of them. So Steve Blank wrote this book, and it's probably 10, 15 years old now, up at Stanford and Berkeley both. But really a good book to walk you through step by step to filling out this business model canvas.
Yeah.
It's a really cool tool.
What other books, Scott? I mean, any other books that you could offer insight into? Because I think that's great if you want. The way that you just described that feels like it's a play-by-play, right?
Tactical.
Yeah.
Very tactical.
Very tactical.
Yeah.
So what about somebody that just esoterically is trying to consider, maybe even just meditate on, do I even want to do this? Is this the thing that I want to do? And has just got to come to that resolution with his or herself of am I ready to make that leap?
Yeah. So there's a few. Well, there's one author that I really like, 86-year-old guy now. I think he's about 86, named Tom Peters. And the first book that I ever read, the first business book that I read, was called Thriving on Chaos. If that doesn't describe
I know the book.
what you're getting into, right?
Yeah.
He wrote In Search of Excellence, and he's probably got 20, 25 books now out, and he's still writing. Incredible. Really, he reminds me of my old baseball coach, hard-nosed, just driven kind of guy, but got a big heart at the same time. It's really an interesting character. But one of his original, In Search of Excellence or Thriving on Chaos, really was a good book for me to. I think I was 27 at the time, and I was getting offered a position to go move on the East Coast, and I was going to become the vice president of sales. And the president of the company said, "You need to come help me. You need to come here." And I said, "You read this book first, and then we'll talk about it." So I even assigned, as a 27-year-old, assigned my boss to read a book before we could talk about taking a promotion.
I love it.
It was, and actually it just really helped me clarify things that are important to me at the time. So
the book that came to mind for me is called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Okay.
And he's a great author. I've read several of his books. I got to meet him. Actually invited him, and he spoke to our forum in EO. It was really great. I went up and did a weekend course at the Hendricks Institute, which is in Ojai. Really, really interesting. So I think that's a great book if you're wondering why you're even thinking about it, right? Because oftentimes it's kind of like a midlife crisis a little bit, where you just hit a certain point with your career and you want something different out of what you're doing. And so what I love about that is, he really takes this concept of what he calls the upper limit problem, where we tend to sabotage ourselves to getting to where we really want to be and being as great as we can be. And that's what he means by that big leap. So that's a great book too. I mean, there's so many books, Scott.
So just made me think of something else. There's mastermind groups that are out there, and on all kinds of topics. But so you have a coach, and what if that coach would have a mastermind group of budding entrepreneurs or solopreneurs that are thinking about it, right? So the experience share that you can get from all these other people that are in a similar scenario, facilitated by someone who knows what they're doing, right? So the mastermind leader, and having that. When you said EO, that's what sparked me. I thought, oh, what a great place to learn is from peers.
No question.
Right? So maybe there's a mastermind group out there for the budding entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever it might be, that people can do their experience shares in a facilitated manner as well. I don't know of any, but we'll look one up, and if so, we'll put that out there.
I think you bring up a good point though, Scott. Is for anyone who's listening to this podcast right now that is thinking about making that jump into entrepreneurship, into running your own business, you're not alone. I mean, there's a lot of people that are thinking about it. And I think you'd be surprised if you started asking the question to, again, tapping into your community, your network, your support group, whatever that is. You'd be surprised at the answers you get and the feedback that you get. So again, let's just circle way back to the beginning, and that's exactly what we said. I think that is the place to start, so whether that's a significant other or just your own family, your immediate family, reach out to your community and your network, and I think that's probably the best place you can start. Then you've got access to coaching. Find a coach, find a mentor. Then there's several books that obviously we recommended that you could tap into. And find the resources. I mean, just, I think the more you can make a good calculated decision, the better that leap is going to be for you.
So when you're looking for these people, just a little bit of advice here. Don't look for people just to confirm your thought process.
Oh, yeah.
You need to find the naysayers. You need to have the people say, yeah, but, right? Yeah, but this, have you considered that?
Yeah.
If you just get a bunch of people that are saying, wow, you would be a great entrepreneur.
Idea.
You should do that.
You should do that.
You're going to miss so many things because
you'd be amazing.
We're emotional and we're just driving to the emotions. But look for the naysayers. Look for the banker, the lawyer, the accountant, the people that are used to saying no, right? And get them on your team as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right, last word.
It's a great life. Being an entrepreneur is a great life, and it's a struggle. It's not cut out. Not everybody is cut out for it. So make sure you are, and make sure you have a support system, and then make sure you do your homework.
No
kind
doubt.
That would be the order that I talk about.
Yeah, I agree. Being an entrepreneur is a great life, and there's a lot of things that you need to be prepared for. I mean, you are going to work way more hours than you think. It's going to take, a startup situation is going to take a lot longer than you think. It's going to cost a lot more money than you think. It's going to require more resources than you think. And so that's why, I'm my best piece of
more money, more everything.
Yeah, my best piece of advice is to really, whether that's with a mentor or a coach that you pay, you've just got to plan the thing out. You've got to sit with a blank whiteboard, strategic plan it, and get somebody that can be objective, that can give you some real straight, hard opinions around whether it's a good thing or not.
I'm just going to say, if you do it by yourself, your revenue numbers will be half of what you think they're going to be, and your cost number is going to be twice what you put down on that piece of paper. So this is why you need a coach.
And it will take you twice as long.
And it'll take you at least twice as long as you think. It's like, we're optimists, right? That you wouldn't be going to as an entrepreneur if you weren't an optimist. So revenue is always half what you think it is, and costs are always twice what you think they are, and time is doubled as well.
Well, call out to Michelle. Thank you so much for the topic. We appreciate those type of suggestions, of course. Love topics like that. I think, as with many of our podcasts, we could keep going on because there's just so much to talk about. I would recommend that for any of you that are thinking about making that jump, please reach out to us. You can reach out, scottandvince@gmail.com. Check out theceopodcast.net. And just listen in. I mean, just listening to this podcast is a step in the right direction. We have a lot of topics in our other podcasts too that I think that podcast episodes that I think could really help.
There's 75 different topics so far that we've gone through.
Yeah,
go back and listen in. It's free. I can't offer enough for people to get thoughts from others.
Yeah,
right.
Agree.
Consider us others.
Yeah. Check us out on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and all the regular channels. And we appreciate you listening.
Have any topics you want to give us? Go ahead and hit us up at scottandvince@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. Please visit us at theceopodcast.net, where you can learn more about our co-hosts and listen to past episodes. If you would like to have a discussion and dive deeper into any topic, there is also an option to contact Scott or Vince to schedule some time with them. Thanks for listening.